Probably in the minority today, right? All right. It's good to have you guys here this morning. Was it great? All right, good. All right. We hope that it continues this morning. We hope it continues all through your hearts through the rest of your lives. It will be a wonderful morning this morning. Hope it solidifies everything you've learned this weekend. Let's stand and let's sing this morning. Let us worship God this morning. So let's see if we can greet everybody in the name of God this morning. That's right, sir.
Morning, how you doing today? How you
you guys will just sit down right where you are. We got something special coming up.
Why am I at the beach today? I don't have time for this. It's too hot, I'm sweating, and there's sand everywhere. And I mean everywhere. But I'm worried about my husband's job, my mom's sick, and my daughter's stressed out about school. She'll be home doing the laundry.
Life's a beach, messy, gritty, and the problems of this world come crashing in on you like the waves on a beach. But Philippians 4, 6, and 7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Come, find the peace and the love of Jesus Christ. Come fellowship with your sisters in Christ." The second annual St. Luke's Woman to Woman Conference is Saturday, February the 3rd, starting at 8:45. There will be childcare provided in the nursery and the gym areas till 1 p.m. We will end with worship and communion. The cost is $10 for each of you. It covers our food costs and our entertainment that we're going to have, which is the wonderful Shannon Strange and some others. There's pre-registration on our website. If you have any questions, just call me. I think just about everybody knows my phone number, so I'll call the church office. And be still and know that He is God.
Thank you, Lord, for this day of rest. I know all I have to do is give it to you, and all my troubles are yours. The beach really is a beautiful, peaceful place.
And then I have one other announcement on behalf of the youth. If you still need to order your enchiladas from the fundraiser, please see a youth or me after each service, and we will make sure we get you some enchiladas. They're $20 a dozen. Thank you.
If your plan is everyone to use, I suggest you do it fairly quickly, because I would imagine after the service, almost everybody in these 4 rows is not only going to leave very quickly, they're probably going to go home and go to sleep. If you're unaware why we have got not just a bunch of youth here, but a bunch of youth here in the exact same shirt, this weekend was the Rise. They have graciously been willing to lock themselves into our church facility to travel back and forth to Tyler and Longview, but all in an effort as they deepen their relationship, as they listen to great speakers, concerts. So I must say I'm really proud of all the youth that were willing to give up this weekend. I'm also super excited. We have a lot of wonderful adults who are willing to be a part in that, to share their life and their faith with the youth, and also to keep them safe and, you know, mostly all of them alive and well. So I will say after the service, for all of you that weren't here for the Rise, come up, talk to the youth, find out what they learned this weekend, but also say thank you to all of our adults who are here. They're easy to spot. They're wearing the exact same shirt. But I'd also like to say the children did a wonderful job. So this morning it has been great to see all of our kids, all of our youth stepping up in their faith. But for now, I would invite the children to come forward for children's time.
Everybody knows what this is, right? Well, a long time ago, we didn't have these, you know that? You actually had to get up so they turn on the TV and stuff. But these are awesome, right? Because it controls like everything. And now, like, we have one even in our house, it has so many buttons, I don't even know what all the buttons do. Like, it can turn on, like, the TV, the DVD player, like, everything, right? Lights, everything in the house they almost can do, right? One, two at your house? That's right. So when you lose it, you can get a universal one, and they're even more awesome. They control everything, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, like remote controls can do video games too, and that's pretty neat. So it controls your whole TV, right? Or your whole video game, right? So it controls a lot. So that made me think about who would I want to control my life, right? And kind of like what they did in the skit right here, I was thinking about Jesus. Because he can control everything too, way more than this remote can, right? He can control everything in our lives if we just let him. Because there's a story in the Bible, and there was a guy, like Jesus was teaching in the synagogue, and there was a man in there, and the man was kind of nervous around Jesus, and that's because he had an evil spirit in him. And he said, "Why are you here? What do you want us for, Jesus?" And Jesus said, "Come out, get away from here." And guess what? The evil spirit listened to him, and he came out. Because God has that power, right? He has power even over evil. He has power over everything. So, but we have to let Jesus, right, into our lives and control us, and he can do that for us. It's kind of like when we were at the Rise, and we listened, and we let Jesus come into our ears, into our hearts, and our minds, and we had to think about it, right? And we were rock climbing, and I was at climbing this one, and this guy's holding the rope, and I was so tired, my arms like felt like jello, and I just wanted to give up, and I did give up, but the guy wouldn't let me. He like said, "Nope, you gotta keep going." So I go, okay, so I tried more, and then I was so tired again, but he would not let me quit until I reached the top. So that guy is kind of like Jesus in my life, right? No matter what, he was there. And even when I totally let go of the wall, I didn't fall, because that guy had me. He was taking care of me, just like Jesus wants to take care of you. And guess what? I did make it to the top with that guy's help, and without him, I couldn't have done it. And with Jesus in our lives, you know that you can do anything, just like I did that yesterday, and I didn't think I could. Can you all say a prayer with me, please? Dear Jesus, we want you to control our lives, because we know that with your help, we can do anything. In your holy name, amen. Thank you, Papa.
It's never a bad thing when you have to dodge kids to go. So as you can tell, there has been a lot going on around campus this week, this weekend. There's always a lot going on, but I must say I am always grateful when whatever the week has brought us, whatever we know we're facing, we're able to come in and we're able to worship. We're able to pray. Pray is kind of that great equalizer. We're able to let all of our stress, all of our worry, everything just kind of go for just a couple of moments. So I invite you to pray with me now. God, as we come here this morning, we are so grateful. We're grateful for so many reasons, God. We're grateful that we made it to Sunday. We're grateful that we made it to this moment. We're grateful for all of the things you've taught us, all of the words we've heard, God. We are sometimes just grateful to be able to come in and rest, to be able to relax, to take whatever it is that's bothered us, that's worried us, everything that we've carried around, and just to set it down. To know, God, that as we come in here, you are meeting all of our needs. You are pouring your Spirit down upon us. You are refreshing and renewing us. You are offering us rest and hope and peace. God, you are offering us transformation. This morning, God, we ask that not only do you pour your Spirit down upon us, but that we are able to feel it. We are able to feel your Spirit move in our lives, that the words we hear, God, the songs we sing, even the prayers we offer up, allow us to be changed. You are able to take our lives to mold us and shape us, so that, God, we can be the people you have called us to be. We say this prayer using the one that your Son taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Before I get started, how many of you have ever run a race? 5K, 10K, I don't really care what it is. How many of you have ever run a race? All right, for those of you that have, you're probably going to understand what I'm talking about. For those of you that haven't, you're going to get to live vicariously through my racing. When it comes to any kind of running, any kind of racing, there is a moment that everybody dreads and fears, and it's not the start line. But there's a moment during the race that you're going to hit, and it's terrible. Has anyone ever experienced hitting the wall? So hitting the wall, for those of you who haven't raced, is this wonderful moment where you're normally about 2 to 3 miles from the finish line, and your brain starts telling you you're gonna die. Right? And that's essentially what it's doing. Your brain is going, this is an awful idea. It was awful 10 miles ago. It was awful 20 miles ago. And now I'm telling you, you're done. You need to quit. Right? And it's merely your brain at that point. You hit this wall and your brain begins saying, stop. Quit. It's over. Be through with this. You still have a life to live. Don't throw it away here. Now the problem is when your brain starts communicating this to your body all of a sudden decides your brain is onto something. And your body starts deciding now's a great time to shut down. Right? I'm going to quit. You're 2 miles from the finish. Who actually needs to get there? It's no big deal. And so you hit this moment where all of a sudden everything about you, your body, your brain is telling you now is the time to quit. Stop. Be done. Give up. It's perfectly acceptable. The last race I did had a 112-mile bike ride. And at mile 100, I literally hit a wall. Not just figuratively hit the wall. I was going to do a turn and managed to careen right into a barrier. Right? And I went down and I crashed, scraped my arm up, scraped my knee up. My bike was fine. I get back up, and in that moment, I hit the wall. Literally and figuratively. I get back up and I am hostile. I am angry. Right? My brain is telling me you've done enough. It is time to quit. Be through. Be done with it. Right? And psychologically, I am beginning to believe this, except I'm still 12 miles away from the spot I can quit at. Right? So I get on my bike, and for the next 12 miles, I am angry. I'm mad. I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm through. I get back. I'm dropping my bike off, and I'm walking away. I don't care about the rest of the race. Right? That is what is going through my head. And so for 12 miles, I pedal, and finally I get back to the tent, and my friend is sitting there, the guy I raced with, and I walk in, and in not one of my finest moments, I take my helmet and I throw it across the tent, and I go, I'm done. I'm through. I'm quitting. That's it. And he looks at me for a minute, and he grins at me, and he goes, are you done throwing a temper tantrum? I go, what? And he goes, get your running shoes on and get out of this daggum tent. We've got to go. Have any of y'all ever been in that moment where it was so easy to quit? Right? You're done. You're through. You hit the wall. You're angry about the prospect of having to go on. You want to be done. You want to just stop. And then what do? What do you do? Right? That we train for hitting the wall. That's one of the things we overtrain so that when we hit that wall, psychologically we can go, you know what? I can keep going. I can push through. But what do we do in life? What do we do in life when we hit that wall? You see, you might never run a race. You might never actually get to a start line or get to the wall halfway through a race. But most of what we do in life, it takes time. It's a lot like running a race. And I promise you, there is always that moment where it all of a sudden becomes easier to quit and to stop than it is to keep going. What do you do in that moment? What do you do when life says it is perfectly acceptable to give up? You see, nobody likes conflict. Nobody likes having to deal with conflict or issues when they arise, but it is a part of life. A part of life is having to deal with problems and issues that come up. If it wasn't that way, everything would be easy. It'd be simple. And over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of been building to this. We've been talking about rebuilding, right? What is it in your life God is calling you to transform? What is it in your life God is calling you to change, to fix, to make new? And it's a journey, right? As we learned with the Israelites in Ezra, it begins with God calling, with God telling, but then 2 years in, the Israelites are just getting started. It's an endurance race, to be sure. It takes patience, and it takes energy, and it takes time. But inevitably, you're going to hit that moment when conflict arises, when the wall comes up. And what do? So far, we've listened to what happened in the book of Ezra. We've paid attention to the Israelites because the Israelites have done phenomenally well. The Israelites listened to God, and they went with their sense of purpose and their sense of unity, and they took their time and their patience rebuilding. But what we're about to read out of the book of Ezra is what happens when the Israelites hit conflict. When the Israelites hit that moment where it's easier to quit. And unlike the last couple of sermons, we're going to look at the Israelites and see exactly what not to do in life. We're going to look and see how the Israelites managed to sabotage their life and what was going on. So I encourage you to open your Bible to Ezra chapter 4. We're going to be reading verses 1 through 5. When the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the returned exiles were building a temple to the Lord, the God of Israel, they approached Zerubbabel and the heads of the families and said to them, "Let us build with you, for we worship your God as you do, and we have been sacrificing to him ever since the days of King Esarhaddon of Assyria, who brought us here." But Zerubbabel, Yeshua, and the rest of the heads of the families in Israel said to them, "You still have no part with us in building a house to our God, but we alone will build to the Lord, the God of Israel, as King Cyrus of Persia has commanded us." Then the people of the land discouraged the people of Judah and made them afraid to build, and they bribed officials to frustrate their plan throughout the reign of King Cyrus of Persia and until the reign of King Darius of Persia. This is the word of God for the people of God. So there's a whole lot going on in these 5 little verses. So far, as we've talked about, the Israelites have made their way out of captivity. They've made their way back to Jerusalem. They started building the foundation of the temple. And when we pick up in verse 4, they're not very much further past that. The foundation has been laid, but not much else. And so this group of people come up to the Israelites and they say, "Hey, y'all are rebuilding the temple. We want to help. We want to be a part of it." Now, the people that came up to him, these are not strangers. They're not foreigners. When the Babylonian captivity started, when they were invaded in Jerusalem, the Babylonians only took the important people. They took the people that might stir up problems. They took the people that might cause rebellion. So they took the heads of the church, they took the governor, they took all of the leaders of the town, and they took them away. What was left were the people who weren't going to cause any issues. Before the captivity started, these were friends, these were relatives, these were brothers, they were sisters. But then when the captivity ends, all of the leaders, all of the important people are sent back. And now you have 2 very important groups. You have those that were held in captivity, and you have those who weren't. And so this group that in verse 1 is defined as the adversaries is none other than the people who have been living in Jerusalem the entire time, right? They weren't always adversaries. They weren't always problematic. They were once a close-knit community. And so the adversaries even said they want to help because they've always worshipped here. This temple was their temple. This is their home. They've always been a part of this, and that's the truth. Right? They worshiped together. They were always there together. But the Israelites make some conflict. The ones who were held in captivity. Right? They believed that it was their calling to rebuild the temple. Right? God told them to do it. Just like God tells us to do something. And because God told us to do it, the Israelites think these other people aren't worthy. You see, the funny thing when it comes to conflict is there's 2 different kinds of conflict. There's external conflict and there's internal conflict. Now, the external conflict we face is that the Israelites did not want help from the other people. They didn't want help from these adversaries. My external conflict was a literal concrete wall, right? I hit it. It wasn't fun, right? We have external conflict. I'm sure whatever you were trying to fix or change, whatever you're trying to rebuild in your life, there is something that comes along that is that external conflict that says stop or quit. It's not worth it. See, the problem is the external conflict doesn't tend to be the biggest of the problems. This extra group comes up and says, "Israelites, let us help you rebuild." That's the external conflict. Someone offering help. That is the catalyst for the problem. all started inside their head. Because the Israelites say, you know what, God ordained us to do this. God told us this was ours to do. And so guess what? If it's ours to do, these other people aren't worthy to be a part of it. See, the Israelites walked into this situation full of prejudice. And not just racially or ethnically. You see, the problem with that word is sometimes we tie it to, it's got to be racism. Prejudice is any time we make a prejudgment about something, and most of the time they wind up being wrong. You see, the Israelites get into all of this problem, all of this conflict ensues, because they look at this group of people and say they are not worthy to be a part of it. They prejudge them, and so they say don't help. Most of our issues we face are these internal conflicts. It is your brain telling you it's easier to quit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There's physically nothing wrong with you. You can get up and keep going, yet your brain is saying, I'm done. I don't want to do this. It's easier to go back. It's easier the way it was. It's easier if I don't let these people help. So the story ends up playing out. The Israelites said, we don't want your help. We don't need your help. So the group of people, this adversary, they intimidate him. They bribe the local officials, and the temple does not get built. Verse 5 says that it didn't get built from the time of King Cyrus to the time of King Darius. 60 years. 60 years is the time that passes from the scripture we just read to when they are able to continue building the temple. 60 years. There's a king in there, King Artaxerxes, who comes after King Cyrus, before King Darius. There's this whole thing going on. And the Israelites, because of their sheer stubbornness, because of their inability to move through conflict, they sit on their hands for 60 years instead of doing what God has called them to do. I want you to think about the graveyard of things you have quit in your life. I want you to think of all of those things that you know God has called you to, that you have started working on, and yet somewhere in the midst of it, you quit. And you either quit because someone told you you shouldn't do it, or you quit because you didn't think you could, or you weren't good enough. We all have that graveyard laying there, where we let conflict get the better of us for whatever reason it is. The Israelites went into this knowing that God had called them to it. God called them to a new life. God called them to this sense of normalcy. God called them to this wonderful ability to create community, to have friends, to have relationships. And yet because of their stubbornness, because of their own internal conflict, because of their prejudice, they let that slip by for 60 whole years. The worst thing we have to fear in life is letting the purpose God has given us slip by because our own ability to move past ourselves. You see, I am indebted to my friend on that race because my friend looked at me and said, "Are you done? Now let's go." Right? How many times do we need somebody in that moment to simply say, "Are you done with this? Now let's carry on." God has called us all to great and amazing things. God has called us to a life that is full of peace and joy and happiness. But how many times are we the ones that sabotage it? Because we are right. Because we are stubborn. Because we are prejudiced. You see, the hard part is at no point did the Israelites even try to fix it. The Israelites look at the other group and they say, "No, you're not helping." And they are so dead set that the other group is bad that they, for 60 years, sit there doing nothing. The upside for us is we have a time to learn. Right? Even if you have been stubborn, if you have been prejudiced, if you have let the conflict get the better of you, now is a great time to reevaluate. To look at it, to see where you have stood in your own way and to say, "I'm not doing it anymore." To realize that your own prejudice is probably keeping you from the life God has called you to. You see, any part of rebuilding is going to have conflict. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. God never promises that. God promises that He'll pull us through. That He'll be there. We just have to get out of our own way. We're well past when you would have normally given up on your New Year's resolution. It's the end of January, right? You probably quit 2 weeks ago. It's all right. Can't really get that back. But this whole time I've asked you, what is God calling you to change? What is God calling you to rebuild? What is God leading you to? Whatever that is, God is doing it for a reason. God called the Israelites back to Jerusalem not just so that God could have this shiny, fancy new building. God called it so that his people would be able to return to a life of worship, a life restored. Right? What is God calling you to? And where are you sabotaging? Where are you getting in the way? Where are you letting the wall stop you? The wall's not an excuse to quit. The wall's an excuse to push forward, to keep trying. You see, we don't want to end up like the Israelites, waiting for 60 years for the life that God has called us to. We don't want to let that purpose slip away from us because we can't move out of our own way. So I encourage you, don't worry about your New Year's resolution. That's probably already passed. It's already dead in the water. We'll try again next year. Think about what God is moving in your life. Think about where you are stopping it, where you are being the hindrance, where you're letting conflict keep you from peace and hope. I encourage you, give that over to God. Get out of your own way. Let the same spirit that called you into rebuilding be the spirit that pulls you forward, that says get up and go, and not stop and quit. The Israelites waited 60 years for new life. Don't be like the Israelites. Find that new life now, that life that God has promised you. Let us pray. God, the Israelites have shown us what it is to be patient, what it is to rebuild. But the Israelites have also shown us what it is to quit. And this morning, God, when we offer our lives up to you, when we offer everything we are up to you, God, we even offer up the hardship, the times we want to quit. God, we ask that you speak your voice into our lives, that you don't let us quit, that you pull us forward, that you help us to see the hope at the end of the building. It's in your name we pray. Amen. This morning we've offered our voices up in song. We've lifted up our joys and concerns in prayer. And I now invite you to lift up your tithes and offerings as the ushers come forward. God, we ask that you take these gifts and offerings, bless them, and use them for the building of your kingdom. Amen. or meet me in the back of the church after the service. But for now, I invite you to stand and sing with me. God has called us to a life of hope and peace and joy. Don't wait 60 years or 60 days or 60 hours to find that peace that God has promised us. Amen.